Thank you for joining us for the March 8th Board of Selectmen's meeting. If everybody would please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, under announcements, a few things. First of all, want to wish Bob Gobiel well. He's a bit under the weather, we'll say, and so we're wishing him a speedy recovery. I also wanted to mention that on Wednesday evening, we had a fatal fire on Pheasant Run Road here in Waterboro, and on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the staff here at Town Hall, I'd like to offer our condolences to the family of Cecile Morey, who was lost in that fire. I also want to thank the neighbors who were part of trying to help the residents of the home. We also had some folks out there that opened their homes to the firefighters that night, allowing them to come in and have a place to get warm. And we certainly appreciate how the community in that neighborhood came together that evening to offer assistance. I'd also like to remind residents that, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. However, news reports and scuttle that happens about town doesn't always give the facts of the matter, and derogatory statements made to firefighters after an incident like this are uncalled for. I'd ask residents please be supportive of the M.R.S.A family as they work on dealing with the loss of their family and the loss of their home. I haven't heard about any funds that have been set up for the family, but certainly if we do, we'll make sure that information is available on the town website. And I also wanted to thank Pastor Story, because I understand that he was quite instrumental in offering support that evening to some of the folks that were down there, and then he went back to the neighborhood a couple days later and offered some support there. So just to let the family know that we're thinking about them, and our thoughts are also with the neighbors who witnessed the incident and our firefighters who participated in that.
There is a sign up there that says Marble Drive, please donate flowers to JD's and they will take care of it. So
Okay.
There is a sign on the property.
Okay, so Bottle Drive, drop your bottles at JD's and let them know that it's for the M.R.S.A family. We have no appointments this evening. Hearing a delegation.
Would ask to be heard after new business and before old business under hearing and delegations for a very short.
It's hearing a delegation now, so
I would like to be heard after your new business.
how does the board feel like that? It's, hearing a delegation is now. Is there an issue with taking that out of order?
It will be not on any motions that you make on the new business.
Is the board agreeable to that?
What's the reason for this?
Couple done, but I do not want to discuss it till you take your vote.
Dennis? Gordon?
I don't have an issue with it. I mean, it's down here, it says discussion, so I would imagine that generally anyone can discuss it if they have a point. But
Dennis?
are you waiting until after the vote is taken? Is that what you're saying? Then that discussion period would be over, so that would be something else.
Yeah, I guess my feeling is if what you're really asking for is some a point to be heard after we conduct business, and that's typically not the way that this thing flows. So, hearing a delegation is now. So,
And
that would be my put in.
I would be in agreement with Dennis. I think hearing a delegation on the agenda is, at this point, we typically don't take it out of order unless somebody comes in late and has
It would have to be, I would say that it would have to be on the agenda, we'd have to vote on an issue under new business, it would have to be number 6 under new business. We'd need to know what that was all about and vote on that. But to move hearing of delegations, I don't see any reason for that.
So if you want to be heard under hearing a delegation, Dwayne, now is your opportunity. If not, and there's another item that you'd like us to discuss at another time, then let Pam know and we would add it to a future agenda. Okay. Correspondence this week, we have 2 in our packet. First is a letter from Woodman, Edmands, and it's regarding an abatement. And we also have a letter regarding a request to return property on Orchard Drive back to the town. Both of those items will be on our agenda next week, but at least everybody has those correspondence so you can have the opportunity to look them over during the course of this week. Under reports, Town Administrator's report, Nancy's tied up for a few minutes, so we'll get back to Nancy. Selectmen's report. Anything? Okay. Moving on, committee reports, Economic Development Committee.
Hello,
Hi, Chris.
how you doing? I will be very brief, promise. It's like
We
getting
do notice
a little snicker.
There's a
from
lot
you
of
guys.
snickering.
A little snicker. I expected that, actually.
I
All
was
right,
just viewing
couple-
the size of your notebook when you said it. Good job.
We're gonna go through just this stuff, you know. You know, with the weather that we've had here, it seems like every time we have a meeting, it's snowing, so we've had a few meetings that haven't occurred in the last 3 months. And then there was some family issues with a couple of our members, so they weren't present, so we didn't have a quorum, so we had some workshops instead. But over the last 3 months, the committee has got a lot done. We've basically knocked off every one of our goals for the year. And we're finishing up the year, the remaining 3 months coming up here. We're going to knock off a few little things here that we haven't been able to get to. But one of our main things that we worked on in the last 3 months was the Waterboro business campaign, Buy Local. Basically, the committee developed a poster that explains how the tax revenue produced by the businesses in Waterboro reduces the amount of taxes that the taxpayer paid in 2010. Tammy Jo put it all together as far as on her sheet of paper and designed it. I actually have that here for everyone to take a look at. If you see it up, you'll be able to recognize it. This poster will be presented to some of the area businesses to help post in their businesses and spread the word. Also, we have done an advertising campaign with the Waterboro Reporter with this poster. We shrunk it down to a half page and put it in an ad form during the last week of January and the first few weeks of February. So if you guys haven't seen that, I'll pass that around to you. So that was something that we have been doing right along. We're going to try to continue to push this, Buy Local. Like I said, we're going to be visiting a lot of the Main Street businesses initially to get this up and go from there. The Buying Local helps support local services in our towns, jobs, and community character, among other reasons. Our businesses have invested in our community, and the citizens of this town can help reinvest in their community by shopping local. 45 cents of every dollar spent locally is reinvested in our town. So that's something for the people to remember when they have to go out and buy something that they can just go right down the street and buy instead of going, let's say, to Home Depot or one of our local hardware stores may have that. By buying local, you're keeping the money flowing within the town. One of the other things that we've talked about a great deal is advertising vehicles for the EDC in the town of Waterboro. How can we get the town of Waterboro's name out there amongst not just the area towns, but maybe upstate, out of state? How can we get businesses to come to our town? One way to do it is to get our name out there. The committee voted unanimously to join the Maine International Trade Center Organization and the Maine Innkeepers Association. We're still looking into other organizations and possible publications to get the town's name out for future exposure. So that's kind of what we've been doing right along. Like I said, we'd have a meeting, then we'd have one that got canceled, either due to weather or not having enough people there because of family reasons. So, is there any questions?
Behind you.
Hey, Chris.
How you doing?
I was wondering if you guys defined what local is. When you say buy local,
We're meeting the town of Waterboro.
in the town of Waterboro.
Yeah. Local businesses in the town of Waterboro.
So Hannaford is a local.
It is a local business.
Just wondering.
It is a local business, but they employ local people who then spend their money locally. So, not everything that's in our town is considered local. I know where you're getting at. You know, Dunkin' Donuts, is it a local business? Is it owned by a local person? Well, that's debatable, but they hire local people. Okay, so we need to remember that too.
And they
So-
contribute to the local tax base.
And they do contribute to the local tax base as business owners in the town. So, but I do know what you're getting at as far as a corporation type of deal with the national or Eastern Seaboard.
Well, when I was on the committee.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that.
Yeah.
I brought up they have that buy local in Cambridge,
Mhm.
Massachusetts. And they did that specifically because there were large corporations coming in and setting up little shops that looked like little shops owned by local people, and in fact, they weren't.
Mhm.
So the stickers on the doors in Cambridge means the guy, the business is for there.
The owner is
not
in
for
the
somewhere
building.
else.
The owner is in the building. And we have talked about some stickers, and we're pricing those out with a local business person who is going to be doing it. We try to do everything local. If we're going to do anything with the EDC, our first thing is local. We price everything out with the owner in the store local. Okay, the owner is actually in this room right now that has priced it out. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I guess the only question I would have on the buy local organization, my perception would be that's not a municipal or a town committee that should be driving. I understand buy local, but typically in the towns that have buy local are organizations that, like a chamber or shoot off.
Business
or-
organizations.
Right, as a business organization. So is the intent that this becomes somewhat of an incubator, and once it's
Well, our intent is not to advertise a specific business. Okay. It is businesses in general. As an economic development committee, we're trying to get development in our town. And that would be keeping our money here as much as we can. We're not going to focus on any one business or two businesses or do a business spotlight or anything like that. This is just a general keep your business local campaign.
Okay.
Many other economic development committees in other towns have done this. And it is a chamber thing that they focus on individual businesses, you know, weekly spotlights, things like that. That's not going to happen here. This is just a very general. And I know there's a lot of confusion in town that the EDC and the Waterboro Association of Businesses are the same thing, and they're not. So it is just a general focus.
Yeah, I think you get the word out, and you keep on getting it out and getting it out. It's an attitude
It's a catch.
hit. You know, you might say, there's this great sale in South Portland for food, but by the time I pay the gas to go there and get the food,
Especially now.
I ought to buy it locally and keep my money here. And the same thing in a whole bunch of other issues that you might save a few cents with a sale someplace else, but by the time you travel there, and if you can do it here, just think that way.
You know, it's that as an attitude, but it also is, they need to remember that money, when you spend it here, if someone comes into a business and wants a donation for the Little League and things like that, that they're able to do that. If your money's not spent here, they're not able to do that. So that's what we're talking about. The businesses reinvest in our town, and we need to be conscious of that when you're spending money. Now, some things can't be done in town. We recognize that. But if at all possible, the things that you use every day, I think that in most cases you can find it right here in this town.
And it's not just the tangible items that you can go out and buy. It's also the services that you can buy, such as a local contractor or,
Yep.
you know, the local plumber, the local electrician. It's supporting those businesses as well as
Absolutely.
opposed to just the storefront business.
And those electricians, those contractors, they spend money in our town, and we need to help support them.
I'm wondering if you could possibly shrink another one of those down and see that
Goes on the website.
our local reporter here gets one?
They
From
have
the-
one.
From the Journal? That's the Journal, that's
Oh,
not
the
the
Journal
Reporter.
Tribune? Oh, okay, yeah, we can get one of those to the Journal. Yeah, we advertised it in the Waterboro Reporter. They're our local newspaper, so we did put that in there, and certainly we can talk to them, the Journal, about possibly doing something there too as well. We'll see. Anything else?
I do know that a lot of their papers
Sold.
that service Waterboro residents, because their carriers are all around.
Yep.
If you're looking for ways of getting the word out,
And if you need an
Yeah, I agree.
advertising executive, Tammy?
No, I agree, I
Just
mean,
write stories, I know.
you know, advertising, you have to do it hundreds of times to get that word out, like John said. It has to become second nature to people, so. All right, like I said, it was quick.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
We'll skip back to the town administrator's report.
Just a reminder, animal control officer was in today to pick up the good list and the bad list. And there's 256 unlicensed dogs on the bad list. The late fee right now is $15, and April 1st it will go to $25. And he will be starting to contact people who have not been in.
No, on that, Nancy, the bad list.
My name's not on it. Did you hear
Let's
that,
see,
Cory? My name's not on it, okay?
A person no longer has a dog.
Yeah.
Do they have to report that their dog is deceased, or has moved, or what did not?
They should, so that we can get them off our records, because they show on our records as not being licensed.
I think a simple note of Sparky will not be done.
Well, in fact,
I don't think many people know that, you know? That's why I asked.
well, in fact, we've had some in the past say that Sparky was no longer, and we picked him up a couple months down the road because he was running
Reincarnated. My
reincarnated.
God.
Amen.
You gotta believe.
And the other thing is, I'm working on the warrant. Looks like right now we might be up to 4 articles.
For the special town meeting.
5 articles, I'm sorry, yes. I do have draft for you to take home, look at it, but it's very draft. I just trying to get the articles in. The numbers probably will change on a couple of them, but
And what about the gate?
the gate, Tommy has fixed it, but I forgot their name. H.A. Stone is going to come over and fix it.
Okay. Should we be putting up signage that says, saying not to be removed?
By commercial. I mean,
So
it's-
we've got a little something to kind of fall back on.
Yeah, I
mean,
told him
the
it's-
gate should be a pretty good indication that,
Yeah, I told him it should be closed and locked when we don't have personnel up there. Because we do have a pile over in the transfer station for them to come and
Yep.
get. You know,
that's for residents. That
for
doesn't mean,
residents,
like,
not, no,
Commercial,
commercial, no,
Sanders and
no.
okay. Moving on to committee reports again. 2020 comprehensive plan. So which one of you gets to speak this evening? See a lot of folks from that committee.
Madam Chairman, board members, and town administrator, I get to start, if you will, and my committee members have asked me to compress it so they'd have equal time. And we have a goodly number. We're
optimists.
So I am going to try to compress my comments because it's a privilege to have the majority of our committee present, and they'd like to share some thoughts with you too. So what I'd like to do is to bring you forward as to what we've accomplished. In my life, I've sat on quite a few committees, and I must say that this particular committee is full of energy, is dedicated, and the attendance record is almost always pretty darn good. And so it shows that dedication that's important for a good cause. Our cause is simply master planning. So what's the first phase of that master planning is to do some visioning sessions. We have now accomplished 3 separately distinct visioning sessions. The first one with a group of our elders and senior citizens, of which you've seen and read the report. The second, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the public at large, the second being with an amazing cross-section of our student body, with, again, many thanks to our principal. 84 in number, and you read the comments. You also have seen a copy of that report. Most recently, on January 7th, there was another visioning session, and I have to thank the majority of the Board of Selectmen for attending that visioning session. We had a good showing. It was a Friday night. I was a little bit nervous about holding a meeting on a Friday night, but there was a good cross-section of the community. And after I finish my presentation, I'll give you all a copy of the synopsis of that particular visioning session. We're also going to keep these out front for the public at large outside of Pam's office so that the public can pick them up too and read how the cross-section of the community values its community and the things that citizens like and dislike. Now, why did we do the visioning session? Why did the 2020 group do the visioning session? It's done so we can build a foundation of what values are in a cross-section of community consensus. Things that we need to do in the future that have either been neglected, overseen, or just not recognized as being a crisis in the waiting. And I can't stress enough how, and you all have seen it, how serious our infrastructure is. It's every day I take particularly close note of roadways, everything that's above ground that I can see in terms of deteriorating infrastructure. That's an important component of this comprehensive plan. One of the things that we haven't talked about enough is why are we doing this comprehensive plan the way we're doing it? This is like no other comprehensive plan that I know of here in this state of Maine, other than those that are done by large urban centers that have multi-million-dollar resources to put together a very definitive scientific package. We're doing an action-driven comprehensive plan. It's a lot of work. It requires a lot of different professional disciplines to put it together for one predominant reason. It's to position the community for future grant monies. If you have a poorly written comprehensive plan that doesn't have the technicalities or the specifics or the action plans, no longer are goal-centric plans powerful enough to leverage either private sector foundation monies or federal monies. Don't let anyone kid you. There's a lot of federal money out there, much to everyone's disbelief. Watch it all surface in the fall of 2012. It's now time for us to be positioning ourselves for FY 12-13 federal monies. FY 11 dollars are virtually all spent. All those that are dedicated are virtually committed and spent or obligated. Part of why we do this comprehensive plan, and we do it right, like we've never done it before, is to position ourselves. To position ourselves for future grant monies or future foundation monies. I'm really pleased at how far we've gone so far without any money. Additionally, and this is my last closing statement before other committee members step forward, we have started, and many thanks to the Board of Selectmen for both endorsing and encouraging us to do an energy chapter in the comprehensive plan, as well as get that energy audit done. Nancy and I have had numerous conversations about this. It is up and running, that being the audit. LaSalle Architects are our professional helpers on this. They've been in town 4 times already, climbing through the attics, doing, I think, what's going to be an extraordinary energy audit. That energy audit is positioned, again, it's not just an energy audit to say where our buildings are leaking. It's an audit that's being done to position you for phase 2 for the retrofit of the many energy complexities that we have with all of the municipal facilities that exist. We have a lot of broken things that need fixing, and they're costly. And one of the things that I will continue to work on a daily basis is to scout where those resources might be. But in order to get retrofit monies, we need the audit done. It's my hope that we can have Mike LaSalle, his associates, and myself be before you on April 19th, if you could pencil that night in for Michael to do a presentation to you. That's our target date, with a fallback of the following Tuesday. I recognize that your budget process is taking a lot of time, but this is an important thing to dedicate a fair amount of time to hear them do their presentation. Once that audit, that's part and parcel of the larger energy chapter. We will be one of the first in the state of Maine, again, accepting larger urban areas like Portland. The town of Waterboro will have an energy component in its master plan. That's something to be right mighty proud of, because you'll be one of the first. And again, it will provide you with some leverage, hopefully for some future Department of Energy monies and/or monies that might be filtered from DOE to Augusta. That's where we stand. We've got much work ahead of us. And part of that work, the committee has arrived at a consensus that infrastructure planning, code repair and codification, and in some cases, almost total rewrites of some of our ordinances. That's a major task, a major task. And as you've noticed over the last couple of years that I've been with you, that several stabs and attempts by boards have been made at that to take a little chip out of this. We're working on performance bonds. We've been working on that for 3.5 years, and it's only 1 paragraph. It's only 1 paragraph. So these things do take time. Everything has a remedy, is my philosophy. I'm an optimist that there are remedies to all problems. But we only can find the remedies if we have some sort of action plans. And that's how our comprehensive plan would be different than most others that you've seen or reviewed, is that we'll have very defined, specific remedies as part of these action plans. It's a huge task. I can't begin to tell you how huge this task is, but if you just sit back and read through your big, thick, I remember Pam created for me the manual of all the different ordinances you have. Half of that, zoning and subdivision and other things that affect the land use of your community. It all needs to be overhauled, in my opinion. It's tired, it's old, it's weak, it lacks innovation, it lacks creativity, and it won't help you for the future. It won't help you plan for the future. I say it with candor. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. There's just a ton of work to be done. And so the committee has been working hard. the town administrator and Board of Selectmen should applaud them for the efforts they've put forward in this first year. I've said enough. I'm not sure who's up first. Bob, Jack? For committee members, we have Todd, Jack, Bob, Steve. So I'll leave it up to the four of you as to what sequence you'd like to come up, and then you can ask us any questions you like afterwards.
Thanks, Tom. I guess Jack's next.
I guess. I didn't expect to be at this podium so soon. I thought I could kind of fade into the background. I guess basically I'm just going to ask that you be willing to reconsider the budget request from the committee to include professional services. As I listened to the committee for the past year and what we're trying to do, it seems to me the committee can't really function without professional services. We can't go very far. It may be the town can't afford the professional services, and maybe you can't afford to do a comprehensive plan now. That's real. A lot of good stuff ain't getting done. And if that's the case, we need to say that. We need to put this on hold and try it again in a year from now or whatever. So basically, my whole point is simply the committee, if it's going to function, needs professional assistance. Very much like what we had with the energy audit. We couldn't have done that. We don't have the expertise to do that. So that's my pitch.
John?
I guess the question is, what do you mean by professional services? I haven't seen a real good definition of what professional services outside that we pay for can't be done by people that we are paying currently.
Well, you could probably do that if you took everything else off their plate and they did nothing else. And I'm not sure you want to do that.
John, just by example, when you begin to analyze your infrastructure complexities, let's just take existing water systems, water demands in the future, new water lines, where they're heading and what they're going to cost. When applying for a federal grant, you will want to have your diagrammatics and your profiles and your details of, let's use water lines, for example, as an extension, or road rebuilding. You will want to have stamped drawings by a professional engineer. In many cases, when these grant requests are made, when the pro formas and when the cost estimates are prepared, they're prepared on the basis of a stamped engineered plan by a professional engineer. And there's no one that has that seal in town hall that I'm aware of. So, and that's just one illustration, and I don't want to spend the whole night talking about it, but there are illustrations where specific technicians need to be contracted out. In the case of, and this is only my own opinion, I haven't shared this with the full committee, to do a full comprehensive plan the way that you would like to see it done that would benefit the community the most, there will be these necessities to involve other disciplines, such as professional engineers, that are registered and can put a seal on a drawing. Does that explain that, John?
Okay, I guess being involved with other committees in town now, stepped off or no longer involved with the finance committee, I do realize that when a budget is put forth to the public for a town meeting, what the selectmen put forth as a selectmen's budget is the final budget. What we've come forth for a budget, or what we submitted, is what we believe is needed to handle this project in entirety. This is not the total amount that's going to be needed. our goal is to do this within 2 years. This is only a small portion, okay? I guess my feeling is if we come forward to town meeting and the selectmen are saying no, that they don't want to put forth any money, that we are now kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, and it's up to the townspeople to decide whether or not they want to continue with this town audit, or not audit, but go through this process or not. And by signing and stamping no, gives us no additional opportunity to come forward and produce these results or information that's needed for people to make an educated decision on what's going to happen. I guess my feeling is that the way that the budget has gone to the finance committee, it's a $9,000. We put forward $59,000 as an operating budget, and we put $15,000 for professional services. Doesn't mean that we necessarily, I guess we're willing to negotiate in some senses, but don't necessarily feel it's fair to the public to say no at this point. We still have a long process to go before we get to the budget process. We still have to approve it through the finance committee. I guess what we're asking for is possibly for you to reconsider the amount that you've put forward to the finance committee, because the selectmen's budget is what people, ultimately that's what it is. They can't raise money on the town floor. So if you say $9,000, that's all we get. And I believe the committee as a whole feels that $9,000 is not going to get us where we need to be at within 2 years.
I'd like to comment on that just for a moment, Bob, if you don't mind. I thought that was well articulated, and I think that you probably hit upon something in your comment, is how can we make an educated, informed decision if all we have is basically a line that says we want professional services? And I think that that goes to John's comment in that what type of services are you looking for? It almost, to us, when we were doing our deliberations, it was sort of like giving a blank check without really knowing what we were, going to have encumbered. So I think that perhaps if that had been a little more clearly articulated, that we could have had a better informed decision, because certainly the public is going to ask us, why did you do this? There really doesn't seem to be anything tangible there that, we can focus on. So if you're asking for reconsideration, I don't know the feeling of the board, but it would be my personal feeling that if you were to come back with, some for instances or some plan that we could look at, that we would be able to defend, at town meeting, then I think it would be worthy of, perhaps taking a second look at it. And we may be able to accomplish both objectives, but I don't think we can just buy a pig in a poke right now, The economy is such that, we've really taken a hard look at, what we have for municipal expenditures. So, and I know that the finance committee is doing the same thing.
I just want to also say, when we're looking at the budget, we're looking at things that are tangible that we may have and not have if we don't fund them, or tangible things such as people's hours, and then you say, okay, we have this request here that is not specific, and if you can see something and say, okay, we're investing in something that's not as tangible, but we want to be able to see exactly what is it that we're buying and how's it going to affect the town in a positive way and possibly pay for itself in the future. So if we can link this $5,000 or this $20,000 study on roads to getting the money back in 3 or 4 or 5 years, then we got something that we can grab onto. Otherwise, if it's not tangible, and it's a large chunk of money, we're not gonna go with it. I'm not gonna.
I think you kind of addressed some of the issues I was going to raise. And basically, I was going to ask, when you formed this committee, did you think that we were going to be able to do everything on our own? Or did you have any idea that we were going to have some consultant kind of services? And I guess I need, what's your response to that? Did you expect us to do it on our own?
No, I have a response to that. During the initial phase of this, and if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but the town planner indicated to us that there may be, some academia that may be involved that would not cost the town, any money. So I guess we were looking at, well, you're asking us now to pay for something that we thought was going to be presented, by the M.R.S.A school or a university or something like that. So,
This is going to sound really negative, and I don't mean it to come across that way, but I think if you were naive enough to think that getting any of those places, academia in particular, was going to come absolutely free, you're not in the real world. There's going to be a cost associated with all of that stuff. We do have, and Tom, I think we'll address it in a minute, a good lead, actually a commitment, I believe, for a terrific deal for the town. And I guess the other thing I want to mention is that, and then I'll let Tom come back and talk about the academia aspect of it. I think that the town is at a situation, in a situation where it needs to determine its own fortunes. And if we don't get in writing a comprehensive, action-filled plan that's going to guide what goes on in town, we're going to be doing what we've done to a certain degree up to this point, and that is reacting to what happens to us, rather than us taking the initiative and deciding what's going to happen here. And I think it's critical that we set the guidelines rather than some corporation in Chicago or some other place that comes in and decides this is a real easy place to come in and take over. Because there are all kinds of places, all kinds of organizations that are waiting for places to move into as soon as the economy turns around. The other thing I think that Tom mentioned was that a main reason for our existence and the projects that we were going to do was going to be to put ourselves in a position to be eligible for some grants. I think any grants that we get are going to be predicated on some local money. They're not going to just give us 100% of anything. There's got to be some local contribution somewhere. And we need to be in a position to say, yeah, we've got this kind of money. This proves that we are really trying to do what's good for the town. Tom, so that you react again.
First, to amplify what Bob said, so that the full board and the town administrator are aware of how the current state system works with community planning monies. Current law dictates a one-to-one match, money in hand. It's precisely written that way. There's a whole set of guidelines which I can provide you with. I won't bore you with them this evening because it's a large, long shopping list that needs full compliance in order to compete and to be part of the scoring system. I know it by heart. It causes me nightmares at night because I know we don't have the one-to-one match. So I rule out those monies and put them to the side because we can't compete, because we have no dollars for a one-to-one match that are ready in hand. It doesn't mean you can put an article in town meeting and say, subject to the town meeting vote for matching monies. That's no longer acceptable. That was an old standard back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. You could say, we're going to go for it, we feel confident it's going to go to town meeting. It's no longer acceptable. At the state level, Different rules, different ball game at the federal level. And much of that's built on relationship. You know it, I know it. It's based on relationship, phone calls, and other things that I'm not going to give away because the newspaper's here. Let me go back to answer the other question. Gordon is absolutely right. We spoke a year and a half ago about involving academia for a variety of different reasons. One is with the right guidance, the right supervision here in Town Hall, and I would be accountable and take the lead role on working with academia. And I would hand select the best of the best because that's who I want to work with. We have a specific arrangement which I've kept on the line, penciled in for over 2 years now, with a dean of a specific school that can offer approximately $60,000 to $75,000 worth of value for $15,000 because it's academia, because academia is building it as part of their portfolio. Think of it as all of you as graduate students with zero experience and a great master's degree in this economy. If you're honest with yourselves, you know, as well as I know, being a former faculty member at a variety of schools, at Radcliffe and at USM and Clark University, we all know as faculty members that students don't get jobs because they have great degrees from great institutions. They get it because they have great portfolios and they have great relationships. We have a great relationship with 2 schools. But I would consider an outstanding relationship because I can pick up the phone and they can be here and they have done on faith that they will wait. I can't have them wait forever. So to answer your question, Selectman Gordon, yes, for the CIP project request, you're looking at $60,000 worth of value for $15,000. It would be a pity not to take advantage of that. That's 1 whole year of their involvement. That's not a consultant coming in for a week or a handshake and a glass of wine. This is a huge commitment, and I have faith in certain graduate schools because I know that students need to have a portfolio in order to get a job. I did it myself 41 years ago, and it provided good municipal work for me by having a portfolio. So, does that answer your question, Gordon? We are involving academia, and we will continue to, but we will need to be selective, and there are certain schools that we don't need students that are going to come and profess policy to you. We need some hands-on students that can do some work that we don't have the resources for, particularly the computer resources for. Most of these universities and schools are very well endowed from the National Science Foundation with huge capacities. So that was my timer, and thank you.
Yeah, it was. Thank you, Nancy.
My concern, okay, is that, and I understand what you're saying, I think we as a board and the committee, and we brought in the planning board and everybody else, I think the concern that we have with comprehensive plan is if we do just like we've done in the past 2, we're going to have a nice book and it's going to be on a shelf somewhere and we're not going to do anything with it, all right? We made a conscious decision that we were not going to build a comprehensive plan that looked and felt like everything that's been done out of the state planning office, because I think we all know we could just go buy one of them, right? We can go get a consultant, they can come in here, they can do the comprehensive plan in a couple of 3-4 months for $50,000, $60,000, and you get a plan that complies with the state, but it doesn't do anything else for the community. So I think that, you know, this board has supported that effort of, hey, we're going to try to build this thing for what's right for Waterboro. what we need to do to structure some things and going forward, right? We brought together, I think, all the committees that we needed to, and I think that was the message that we put out. The concern that I have, and I think the concern that the board had when we were doing budgeting is that we had a number, right? The number didn't do much for us, other than, what is the $50,000 for? Because the other numbers that made up the 9 were very specific, okay? But the budget submittal that we had just said $50,000 for consulting, for this, for that, for this, for the, okay? Didn't give us a lot of definition of where we were going, nor did it say, and I guess the question that what it begged for a question is, do we have to do it all in FY12, right? Can some of it be done in FY12 and then go forward into 13, all right? So I think that if anything else, there probably has to be a sit-down with some very specific, what is the most immediate need, what do we need to go do, right? What are the costs associated with that? And we talked about the $15,000 for the capital. I think the perception that most of us had was you only needed $15,000 for the capital, right? To go work with this organization, right? And then the budget submittal was for $59,000, and it was just this big number of $50,000 sitting out there. And oh, by the way, we not need these services. So my request would be, let's get specific and say, what is it that you want to do in the next 6 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 6 months, and how does that lay out from a financial perspective? Rather than saying, let's throw as much money on the wall as we can get, and then we'll go do what we've got to do. I think that's what got us into the position, the last 2 comprehensive plans, where we hired, you know, the first one that we did, we hired Sevago Techniques and their guy, right, and threw a bunch of money at it and got a nice book. Yes, we did a lot of work. There were a lot of visioning sessions and whatnot. The second visioning sessions were the same kind of thing. There was a lot of work that was done in. It was put together, nice book. Didn't really involve or drive the planning board to go look and do and whatever, or the economic development committee to go and do whatever. So I think that's where we are, is that I think there's a lot of support for what this organization's trying to do, this committee's trying to do. I think we need some specificity with regard to what is it you need for money now, and what is it 6 months from now, or 8 months from now, or a year from now, all right? Let's put it out rather than just lumping everything together in a big number that, to be perfectly honest with you, we all said, well, that's what we hired Tom for, okay? So there is the expectation that, you know, you're here, we know what you're involved in. There are some things that probably maybe you shouldn't be involved in if we want to focus more of your time on this kind of thing, but that's for a different discussion, right? But I think going forward is let's, and I'm certainly willing to say, okay, if it's not the whole nut of $50,000 that you need in the next 12 months, what is it, okay? Because I don't think you can spend the $50,000 in the next 12 months, other than just going and grabbing people and throwing money at them, and they're going to produce something that may or may not give us what we're looking for.
Selectman Abbott, let me respond to what you've said, okay? First of all, you could give us $100,000 and we could prove you wrong. We could spend it wisely. We're not foolish people. We're not about to take this committee, of whom I consider some pretty intelligent community members here, and spend it foolishly. Any money that we spent, we plan to spend it with such due diligence that you'll be proud of the committee and proud of us individually.
What?
Look, let me get to that point. I think the board's comments are well taken on breaking out that $50,000 into, and we'd like to present this to you, into a series of options. Option A, option B, and option C. Here's what it costs. Can you conceivably do all three options at the same time? Of course you can. Of course you can. It's all about due diligence, good supervision, good management, and staying on top of it. Okay? Of course it can be done. But given the economic times, there is wisdom in what you say, Selectman Abbott, in being able to take it perhaps in smaller nuts, and so that the board and the citizens will be able to see what's accomplished with a smaller investment, so that we have some products to show you. The one thing that the committee and I would ask of the community and of all people in administrative roles is, let's stop looking at life through the rearview mirror. We need to keep our focus on not how past comprehensive plans may not have or may have worked well for you.
Tom, I'm going to stop you right there, because I think what I'm hearing from the board is that we're not necessarily opposed to reconsidering what the budget request was. We need more information. So I think
and we can provide that.
To keep continuing with this conversation
This
tonight,
conversation is an important one, and I still have more to say.
But I think what we need to do, Tom, is how about if the committee, when's your next meeting?
The next meeting is the first week of April, but I would suggest to the committee that we meet next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about this? How about if you folks get together and spell out the $50,000 for us, and then we'll sit down and we'll talk about it.
That's, I think, very fair and very acceptable, because it does need, as Selectman Abbott says, more specific language. That was the reason why we broke out, just so that you know and the public knows, why we broke out the village planning, because using academic resources is different than using other types of consultants, such as engineers, architects, and the sort.
So just we
What I
need
want to
to
know
see
is,
that.
what is, if there's a $10,000 consulting fee, what does that buy?
What is the
What
product?
is the report? What are we getting for it?
Absolutely.
If there's a $50,000 consulting fee, what are we getting for it? And and when I can see that, and I say, wow, that's really pretty exciting, and yes, it will lead to this, this, and this, I can buy it. But if it's getting a professor and some graduate students in, and I don't know what the heck they're doing or what they're producing, then we have no accountability to the public that's paying for it.
Ultimately, we're the ones at town meeting and are going to have to stand up and defend this budget. Maybe the 2020 comprehensive plan members will be there to speak, but ultimately, it's us. And so we need to justify it. And how are we able to justify it if we don't have that information from you?
I think it probably all points to a need for a stronger communication system between the selectmen and perhaps our committee. We as a committee believe that we've worked hard over the last year. We've achieved the first step. We've gotten to first base, and this is the way you typically would take on a master plan. You get the public's input first. Now we're coming to that turn in the road, which is really challenging because there's so much work to be done. And what we'd like to do as a committee is break that into maybe 3 or 4 pieces. There's probably dozens of pieces. That would make no sense for us to throw 24 different things that need to be done in this community to you. At our next meeting, hopefully next week, we'll take what we consider the 3 top priority. We'll have you look at it and then define as the Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator, if one of those or 2 of those 3 are of as high a priority as they are for us as a committee, then we'll move forward and you'll have your justification system. We've got to be looking forward all the time. One of the things that I find that looking at how something has been done in the past, it does us no good. We just recognize that there was an issue, a dilemma, it didn't work, it wasn't totally helpful, and now we move forward with action plans that can produce what you need.
Okay. So you guys get
There's
together.
one more person left to speak, one more committee member.
I think we know where we need to go.
Well, I think, out of fairness to Steve, he left his place of employment to...
I did, I was baking bread and everything.
Should have brought some.
I've been sitting there listening, and I'm glad I got to talk last, because I think really what I heard was that we're not in good communication, that we asked for something that no one knew really what we were asking for, and that's not good. What is a comprehensive plan? I mean, we need to know that. Why do we need a comprehensive plan? Why is it important? Why is it important to do it now? Why not a year or 2 years from now? Those are really good questions, and I don't think you guys know the answers, and that's not right. A comprehensive plan, I'm not going to go on and on, but a comprehensive plan is the people of the town setting down what they would like their town to be in the future. And you do that because if you don't, someone else will make those decisions for you. Some executive at some company, somebody will come in and put in strip malls where you don't want them. All kinds of things will happen that you won't know because you don't have it defined. We're working on an action plan which will have actions to do. If this, then that, which I think is really important. No one wants to spend money for something that they don't know what they're getting. So that absolutely has to happen. I think the comprehensive plan is really important because I think we, as Waterboro, are poised in a position that when the economics turns around a little bit, the next push is going to come here, and we should be ready for it. If we put it off too far, we won't be. I've been with Tom, I've been in the meetings, so I totally understand what he's saying, the 15,000, what it's for, what it'll get us, but it doesn't seem like you guys do. So whatever it takes.
We shouldn't get hinged on 15,000. What we were looking at was 50.
I'm just saying, it doesn't matter if it's 15, it doesn't matter if it's 50, it doesn't matter what it is. John's right. Why should I give you 15, 50, whatever, if I don't know what I'm getting for it, or why I'm giving it to you? That doesn't make any sense. But we do have reasons, and I think it makes sense for us to somehow more interaction, so you guys know what we're doing and why we're saying what we're saying. And that, I mean, that's from sitting back there. That's what I got out of it. Everything you guys said made sense to me. But I know what Tom's doing, so it made sense to me too. So, but you guys don't know, and that's communication is the biggest thing on the planet, and I think we need to know more about. You need to know more about what we're doing. You guys kind of gave us the okay, the nod to go ahead with this. So, we need, because I think the people of the town, I think those monies, given that we can demonstrate that makes sense. The people of the town should have the chance to decide whether they're going to spend that money and what they're going to spend it for. They need to know what it's for too. So, anyway, that's all I had to say. Thanks.
So Tom, if you could let me know after your committee has met, and we'll get you on. I think next week I had as an agenda item for us.
Let us know what time. I'll be happy if I'm available to sit in and just listen to you.
Great, appreciate it very much.
While you're passing those out, I'd just like to make one comment that I don't think any of us sitting up here believes that you would frivolously spend any money, that it would certainly be with due diligence. And, I know the credentials of several members of the committee, and, there's certainly...
As shady as they might be.
Well, I don't know any of them that have been passing out gift cards, because I haven't received any. But,
All right.
so,
Tom, let me know when you have the meeting scheduled, and maybe some of us will try to attend, and then we'll set up something to further the conversation when you can spell out the monies more. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming in. It's nice to see you folks. All right, moving on to new business, committee appointment. We had a committee interview earlier this evening, and we have an application in our packet. What's the pleasure of the board?
I will move that we appoint Andre Cody onto the planning board.
Okay, Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And Pam, can you just get in touch with him and let him know? Number 2 under new business, discuss vote to sign abatements. In our packet this week, we have 3 abatements, and Jerry was just waiting for us to beckon him in, or either that or you have impeccable timing.
I watched the stream.
Oh, okay. So in our packets, we have abatements for 11/31, 11/32, and 11/33. And what would the board like to do with these?
I move that we accept the assessor's recommendation.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Next on the agenda is discuss vote to sign supplements. And again, in our packet this week, we had some supplements that's signed by Sharon Reed, our tax collector. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Very good. That was pretty painless tonight, Jerry.
Thanks for waiting, Jerry.
No problem.
Next on the agenda under new business is discuss vote on request from Dwayne Woodsome to waive document fee. Mr. Woodsome came before the board last week under hearing delegation and asked the board to consider waiving a fee of $120. And what's the pleasure of the board?
Based on the statute regarding that, I'm going to recommend that we deny his application for a waiver. And there's 2 criteria that under Title I, Section 408, first one being, is the requester indigent? And I don't think that Mr. Woodsome, who's gainfully employed and who's a landlord, in any way can be considered indigent. I think that, he's certainly not a millionaire, but, well, at least I don't think so, but I don't believe that he's indigent. And the second aspect of this is that these particular records are of such significant public interest that they're likely to contribute to the understanding and operations or activities of government, and not the commercial interests of the requester. And I don't believe that that section of the statute applies either. And those are the only 2 criteria that we have in order to base a decision of a waiver under the statute.
So is that your motion?
My motion is to deny the waiver of the fees.
Thanks for the research, I will second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Are you abstaining? You just have to give a reason for your abstention.
I don't care to vote.
Okay.
At this time, I'd like to just have a moment with you.
It's not
The
on
the moment is to turn over the check for the records. Thank you very much. I've waited 14 weeks for this.
Next on the agenda is discuss vote on credit debit cards at the transfer station. This was kind of bantered about a little bit last week on accepting potentially the debit cards at the transfer station for folks that might want to go in. I know that we had discussed this in the past. I don't know, Nancy, if you've done any research into what the past discussion was or recall. Pam and I were kind of bantering it about last week, trying to recall. And I don't know what you have for input, Clint.
My thought was, initial thought was what Pam had found out.
Part of the issue is the fact that they would do half the transaction at the transfer station, The other half of the transaction has to be done here and put into our Trio system. When he does a transaction on Friday, I don't receive that information until the following Wednesday. So there's a 5-day gap in there. The transfer station would be required to make sure they provide me with the credit card number and whether it's a Visa or MasterCard and all of that information, because that all has to go into Trio as well as them sliding the card. The other concern is that I think the individual that you spoke of is a contractor. A contractor has every right to open an account, have a charge account at the transfer station. They would be billed once a month, twice a month by our treasurer, and at that point, they can walk right into the front door of the town hall and pay with their credit card. They don't have to do it at the transfer station, as well as we found that there was going to be quite an expense to have the machine at the transfer station to use maybe twice a month.
Is there a lot of requests at the transfer station to use cards?
In the summertime, there's quite a bit of requests, but not in the winter. I don't know, it'll be a lot more than, might be, in a month, might be 20, 25 cards in the summertime.
But do
Mostly
they
on
realize,
status.
do they realize if they
People
wanna
don't
charge
realize that,
$10,
no.
they're gonna pay $2 or $3 to do that?
No, they don't, no, nobody does.
I think that's my concern is that whatever fees are associated with swiping that card, ultimately are the responsibility of the taxpayer.
Because we run into that a lot here. If somebody comes in and wants to buy a $10 dump sticker, and then when we tell them it's gonna cost them an additional $2, all of a sudden they've got a $10 bill in their back pocket because they don't wanna pay that.
Well, I guess I have two questions on that. One, if it's such an expense to use the credit card at the transfer station, why is it acceptable for them to come in here after they've been billed and pay with a credit card at the town? Aren't we incurring the same fee?
Because we already have the whole system set up,
Right, and the fee would be based on
the amount.
the total amount.
Right.
One time, I mean, ultimately you'd get some leverage to having, not to swipe at every $5.50 that you charge at the transfer station. You do it on
'Cause I would think the other portion of that, the notification, would be probably an electronic link could, take care of that. I mean, we're living in an age of technology where
They would have to have access to our Trio system and
Yeah,
have it outside of the town.
I guess I'd need, and not, I don't want to go into the detail of it now, but I'm not sure why Trio needs all of the credit card information. I mean, typically you'd run the Z-tape at the end of the day from the cash register, and there's so many, MasterCard, Visas, cash, et cetera, right?
It's
So,
not Trio works,
well, yeah, so
unfortunately.
needless to say, another
Yeah, it's like we
reason
have to put every check number in. too,
Another
so.
reason that we should be running the town on QuickBooks or something.
I still think what Pam said, they can all have an account. All you do is come up to the office and set it up and do it once a month.
And
Is
It'd
that
be
your
a lot-
recommendation?
It'd be a lot easier for us and, well, everybody,
is
really.
that your recommendation, then, that to set up an account?
Yeah, right now, I think that's the way we should go. But we do have everything, all the wires and everything hooked to the building down there. We got everything is set to go. But
We do have a web application now, where all you need is this, maybe we could look into that a little bit more before, because it's just a card reader that goes into the web application. I don't know that you need access to Trio directly anymore.
Yeah, we do when we enter the cash receipts.
Well, yeah, you
But it would put it into some sort of a holding
like a summary.
account, right? And then that would download the Trio, I would presume, or could be downloaded.
I just think we'd be adding another whole system down there, and I don't think we need that right now. Really, I don't.
So your recommendation is not,
I would hold on, just as long as you can. And, eventually, I think you're gonna have to do it.
So my suggestion would be is if we don't go forward with it and a contractor is in and is making the request, then he gets the
Right.
form, right? Fill out an application for a credit,
But I've tried that on a lot of them, and they just don't seem to want to do that, but.
Well, that's
that- I mean,
their,
that's
their
their
choice.
business.
I mean, if
Right.
we're making the service available to them, maybe not right at the transfer station, but
Right.
it is available to them, just they have to do it in other means. Any other discussion related to this?
I would make a motion then that we go with the setting up account format versus the actual credit card application at the transfer station.
Which is the process used now, so
Yeah.
no changes. Is there a second to that?
I'm not sure that we need to vote on it.
I mean, do we even have to make a motion? It's already in place.
All right, well, it's a discuss and
Yeah,
vote, so
discuss
we've
vote.
discussed it, I thought there would have to be a vote, so.
And the vote is no action, basically.
Okay.
Don't we have that application right online? We can get it right off the website. I'm pretty sure it's on there.
Probably is, I'll take a look.
So, I mean, they can,
If you have some new information relative to what David suggested, maybe we revisit it at a later date, but I can't see doing anything this week.
We do have a motion for, basically no action, so I would like to act on that.
I'll withdraw the motion then if one's not required.
All right, so we'll revisit it if it's necessary later on.
okay.
All right. Next moving on to old business, discuss charter commission opening. We did have a resignation from the charter commission. That was one of the positions appointed by the selectmen. Under the statute, we need to fill that position as soon as possible. We did put out a request for applications, however, we have received none. So the next thing that we need to do is maybe start beating some bushes, get some folks to, if we know of anybody that might be interested, or, the other thing that we could do is that position, we can have a selectman on the board as well, if we had a selectman that was interested in participating in that process. So, thoughts?
See if we can get somebody. I guess as a last resort, we can fill it with one of us, right? But it would be nice to beat the bushes a little bit, I think, and see if there's some interest.
Okay, so next week maybe, if we know anybody trying to, see if we'll do that. Next is committee attendance under old business. We said we were going to send out some letters, and before we did so, Pam just did put together the list of the membership and the participation. So there is one person that's on this list that received a letter the last time around, and that would be the planning board position.
But I did also check on the reason, and it's his employment.
It's an employment issue,
Okay.
so
Well, with this new committee member going on, does that bring us up to a quorum without?
I think it does, right?
I think it does.
those to be short one
Is
person.
Still short one, I think.
I think they'd still be short one, but it would give them, if one person is absent, they're still going to have a quorum.
Yeah, they are still short of one.
But it still gives them a quorum, even if one person is absent. So it does help to alleviate.
So we need to do some recruiting there as well.
Well, is this employment situation going to be continuing?
The person typically will try to get off work or not be scheduled on the day of a regular planning board. But what's happened is they've had snowstorms, so they've rescheduled meetings and last minute can't shift. Works in the medical field and nice.
So with weather, and
That's been a lot of it this winter, with them having to reschedule their meetings.
So what would the board like to do with that last position?
Well, we need to grab somebody, see if we can, just like we kind of poked around here, see if we can get something.
I hate to take a person off a committee, a volunteer off a committee, if there was a person waiting to get on that. It's better to have someone who's gonna be there 75, 80, 100% of the time than a person that's there 30, 50% of the time. So in a way, we're just kind of discussing this, in a way, having a person that may be there 50% of the time until you get someone to replace them that's able to be there more, by taking them off the committee is kind of following on what we've, I mean, that's a rule that we've set. So I guess in a way, I'm a little conflicted on this, I guess.
Well, I guess the 33% is better than 0%.
Yeah.
And if we remove them from the board, it would be 0% participation. And now we'd be stuck with trying to find 2 individuals. And as I understand it, it's a rule, but didn't we also have to take into consideration the circumstances under which those absences took place?
Yeah.
And so that should give some flexibility in being able to make a judgment.
It isn't like the person is just purposely saying,
Yeah.
I'm not going to the meeting. You know, they're not purposely blowing them off. It's life getting in, the real life getting in the way.
I think let's take a look at it in another month and a half or something and see if situation and weather has changed and everything else, and, we've got we've got a non-resolved problem, then we're gonna have to look at, and the other piece would be in people interested in going on, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's my feeling. I think thanks for clarifying it a little bit for me. And I think that's it. The 35%, 33% is better than 0%. But if we have someone that's interested in coming on, then I think we'd reconsider that. But until that time, I'd keep them on the board.
Oh, there's another one there for 25%. Does that let us out on that?
That will be one of the letters that go out. And I can tell you that that's also weather-related because of his line of work in this season and the frequent snow that we've had this year, and also some other commitments.
Okay.
Other, would entertain a motion to sign warrants for bills and payroll.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Discuss a vote to sign minutes of 3/1/2011.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Pending decisions, we have public service announcements, the performance bonds, which we'll be having Tom come in a couple weeks for, and the committee self-evals, the week's action list. Pam will get in touch with Mr. Cody regarding the planning board. We'll wait to hear from the 2020 comprehensive plan to schedule a meeting with them. Items needing, or discussion of agenda items.
I'd still like to see, unless Clint can shed some light on it, I'd still like to have our engineering firm in here to give us an update on that situation down at the transfer station regarding the height of that wall and what they intend to do about it and who's going to pay for it.
We have a committee resignation. We need to schedule some additional budget meetings. We still need to figure out the revenues. I think we needed to reconsider some of the expenditures, so we need to come with our calendars next week so we can schedule some of those meetings. We have an executive session at 5 p.m. regarding contract negotiations. We have a request from Sheriff Willett to speak to the board regarding a COPS grant. Do we want to see if he's available to come in next week? So So Pam, if you could check on that. And do we have any other appointments or whatnot next week, Pam?
I don't believe so. Did you want to put that request to return the property on the agenda next week?
Both of the items that
The
are
other
under
one is-
correspondence,
the other-
we still need to talk about it.
Okay, I was gonna say, because that's just on hold at
Yeah,
this point.
we still need to discuss it, so both of those will be on the agenda. Okay,
We should, not necessarily this next week, but in the next couple of weeks, take a look at our goals that we set this year and assess those.
Pam, were you able to ever get in touch with Mariner Tower potentially about March 29th?
I have called them, Mr. Vitale is in and out of town. I have not gotten a return call from him, but I'll try again this week.
Is that on the issue that I brought up last week?
The land trust?
The land
Yes.
trust? Okay.
Once we get a date from him, we'll contact the land trust about joining us for that meeting. Good?
I'm not gonna be available on the 29th
Okay.
for that meeting. I'll be out of town.
So maybe we look at the following week?
I probably won't be back until the 6th of April or something.
Yeah, I'm not really doing that.
Okay. So let's look at probably the April 12th, maybe that'll give him more time to... Okay, Pam? Reminders, Wednesday, March 9th, 6 PM, the Road Review Committee is meeting at the Town Hall. Thursday, March 10th at 6:30 is the Old Home Days Committee at the Town Hall. Also, Thursday night, 7 PM, the Finance Committee is meeting at the Town Hall. On Saturday, March 12th at 8:30 AM is the Cribbage Tournament. Monday, March 14th at 7 PM is the Parks and Rec Committee. And Tuesday, March 15th at 6 PM will be the Selectmen's meeting at the Town Hall Annex, and reporting will be EMA and the Fire Department. And actually, we'll be starting at 5 with an executive session. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I speak to you 1 minute before you adjourn?
Regarding,
What's that?
regarding,
I was here earlier, close your ears, Nancy, talking about this, the proper name for it's a hot box, okay? And, you know, I think if you're gonna have a special town meeting coming up, with the serious lack of paving that we've had in this town over the past several years, our road deterioration is getting ahead of us. Coal patching is getting to be more and more and more prevalent all the time. So, in talking to Dwayne, he said the state took some up to surplus property. But where we have a town meeting proposed in the very near future, I would think that it would be at least a good idea if we could put it on the agenda to try to see if we could get some prices. I know that Gordon found them, and we could look around and see if we could find a good used one. Because it's something that we're gonna do a tremendous amount of over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. It's not something that's going away, it's something that's getting greater and greater and greater. And just taking this coal patch out and putting it in holes, it doesn't stand up. It's too cold, it compacts too much. If it was hot and you could put it in, you would have a much better product when it was done.
are you around next week?
What's that?
Are you around next Tuesday?
I think so.
Did you come into the meeting?
Again, I just was worried that you might set the agenda before the special town meeting and not.
Well, we have to vote on the warrant next week, right?
And it has to go to the finance committee also for their recommendation for review.
So if we teed it up next Tuesday, we add it on and then...
Do you want to get some prices, or would you like to have me get some prices?
If you want to get some, that would be great.
Well, Gordon was all over that, so I didn't know what he had some, but
No, I just looked it up, and what it said was call for pricing, so I'm sure you can telephone just as well as I can, and And with your background, you probably have more expertise than I certainly have about it.
Would you authorize Nancy to call surplus property in Augusta and let me review those they got up there?
Just pulling up the list now.
So, but you gotta have authorization before they'll let you look at it, that's all.
We need a motion to place that on the agenda?
Yep.
I make a motion that we add an item to the agenda that would authorize the town administrator to contact the main surplus.
Second to add.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? And then do the motion goes with everyone?
I make a motion that we authorize the town administrator to contact main surplus to find out whether or not there are any available hot boxes and what the pricing would be.
Second? John, second. All those in favor? All right. So that'll take care of that.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
You got
John,
it.
second.
Yep.
David, second. All those in favor? All right, thank you very much.